All right, hello everyone and welcome. We are here today to talk about returning students housing, second year housing. We're excited to virtually see everyone. My name is Nikki Smith. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for Housing Services, which means I work with our on-campus processes. I am joined by my colleague.
Hi, I'm Sarah Prophet, and I oversee the Virginia Tech Off-Campus Housing Office. So if your students are looking to live off campus, I am the one that you talk to.
All right, awesome. So we have a couple of presentations that we're going to work through with you today, and we will have some time hopefully for questions at the end. I will get started with the on-campus side of things. I'll be sharing my screen so that we can work through this together. So you should now be seeing our second year housing beginning presentation. I'm going to just sort of talk through how do students come back after their first year. So for on-campus housing, there are a few options. We really want to start off our top of our list is returning to a living learning program. So as I hope you're aware of, we have over 20 living learning programs across our residential environment. They range from residential colleges with live-in faculty to major-based programs to interest-based programs. There really is a program for every student, no matter what they're interested in. And we strongly encourage students who wish to return to campus housing to prioritize the living learning returner process as their main vehicle for returning to campus housing. Applications will open for LLP returners on October 3rd. Those will open on the StarRez portal. Your students should be familiar with the StarRez portal already. That is where they signed their original housing contract. That's where they've picked their dining plan. It's where they kind of do everything involved with coming back to campus housing. Some quick notes about the Living Learning Program process. There are 4 programs that will not take new students to the program in their second year. So Galileo, Hypatia, Orion, and the Transfer Experience only take returning students who have previously been in the program. They are very much focused on the new student experience in those programs. And so the only returning students are really the folks who have been in the program and are coming back in leadership and mentorship roles. But all of the other programs would love to have brand new returners. So there are plenty of opportunities for folks to join an LLP for the first time. And folks, we'd love for folks to come back. Students who apply for living learning programs after that application opens on October 3rd will know before they go home for the winter break if they have secured a space on campus for the year. So again, just want to stress, this is really what I would like folks to focus on is their main vehicle to return to campus housing. If students are not necessarily interested in the living learning programs, another fantastic opportunity that's a little smaller is to return as a residential well-being student leader. So a lot of folks are familiar with the term of an RA, a resident advisor, resident assistant. Here at Virginia Tech, we call them student leaders. They work with the Office of Residential Wellbeing, and they live in and they work in a cohort of 3 student leaders who work with about 150 to 200 residents, really honing in on various aspects of experience VT, diversity and inclusion, and well-being. The application process for that will occur during the fall 22 semester. We are waiting final dates, but it is coming out soon. Students will know whether or not they have a position before winter break as well. If you have questions about that or you want more information, that's going to come out very soon at Residential Wellbeing's website, which is linked here. Some of our students come back to the Oak Lane community. This may be less of our first year into second year and more maybe some of our other upperclassmen who are coming back. These are the organizations that currently hold leases out in the Oak Lane community. If your student is a member of one of these organizations, they may either be pulled to live in the house by the organization, or if they're interested, they should reach out to the org and let them know that they're interested. Houses are always looking to fill their beds because they do have a requirement to fill those spaces for us. And so if your student's one of these, member one of these orgs, they want to come back, by all means, reach out to that house supervisor or that org leadership. We will be sending contract offers out for next year's roster fairly soon. That will happen before the end of the semester, and they'll be placed either by the end of the semester or first part of the spring. Our Corps of Cadets are required to live on campus. Folks have like an 8-semester commitment to the Corps. So if your student is a cadet, they don't have to do anything at all. They will get a housing offer that will come directly to them in their VT email in January. If your student is currently a cadet and they are maybe not planning on returning to the Corps, but they would love to explore other on-campus options, please have them email housing@vt.edu to request that Corps offer is removed. Until they let us know that, they're not going to be able to apply for either a living learning program or do the housing application process, which I'll talk about shortly. The housing application process is our you might hear it called the lottery. It is the final returning student process that we open up, and it doesn't open up until the spring. So it's for general students who are not coming back to the Corps. They are not coming back to an Oak Lane house. They are not a residential well-being student leader, and they're not an LLP returner. HAP will open on Tuesday, January 17th. So that's the first day of spring classes. It will close the Friday following on the 20th. Students will be notified if they've received a contract through HAP on February 1, and if they receive an offer, it was due back to us on February 14th, be Housing's Valentine, and come back to us. And so there are a couple of things to know there. If your student is interested in living with a specific person, they can come into the lottery as what's called a link. And so they'll be able to, when they do the housing application process, which is incredibly quick, it's on the StarRez portal. It takes less than a minute or two to do. They can indicate, I want to be linked with this other student. We offer that option. And so as we are generating housing offers, which are truly random, we will double check to make sure that if we're going to offer, links get offers together or they don't get offers. So that way it doesn't really change their chances. It just means that we'll pull them in together. They kind of become one unit for the sake of the random generation. Students may get one of two types of offers through HAP. They could get a standard contract. And what that means is that they will get to pick their room directly. They may get what's called a conditional contract. And I want to stress that this doesn't mean that their housing contract is conditional. It means that their placement is conditional. A conditional contract is still legally binding. You are still committed to return to Virginia Tech housing. You are still responsible for room and board charges. It's that we will place students with conditional contracts at the very end of the contracting cycle after everyone else has been placed, as opposed to students being able to select their own spaces. So those are two different types of contracts that we offer. We do this so that we are able to fill in open spaces around campus and keep our occupancy as close to 100% as possible. All of these things that are being talked about today, so our LLP returner applications, our residential well-being student leader applications, HAP, students will see notifications to their email. So the Virginia Tech email is very important to be keeping an eye on. That's how we communicate to folks. There will also be some social media campaigns and posts as well. So it should be quite difficult to miss this information. But you're welcome to always return back to this. We're not going to be sending out this recording to participants, but it will be posted on the Fall Family Weekend website for later viewing. If you have any questions, you are welcome and encouraged to please reach out to Housing Services directly. We're located in Newhall West. We're in Suite 134. We are right off the main lobby of the building. Happy to talk to you. Our number is right here, 540-231-6205, or you can email us at housing@vt.edu. I do see one quick question in the chat about if students get compensation for being in SL, and you do. So students they will receive a housing waiver, and there's a stipend as well. So there is certainly compensation for the very hard but amazing work that they do. If there are any other quick questions about on-campus housing, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but be happy to address questions. Great. So great question, Raymond. What are the chances a student gets a contract from HAP? I wish there were a magic number that I could give you that's always true, and it's simply not possible. So basically the way we figure out how many contracts we can get from HAP, there's a reason HAP is the last of our processes. So after we've done LLP returners, after residential well-being student leaders are selected, after we know how many returning cadets we have, all of those kinds of fun numbers, and after we know roughly what incoming class size we have, then we look to see how many spaces do we have left. And based on that, that tells us how many offers we can make. So some years, everybody who enters HAP gets an offer. Some years, maybe 30% of folks do. It really depends on how many spaces we have available after all of our other processes are complete. I know that's not the most fun answer because it's not the most concrete, but it is the true answer. Can you choose what building you become an SL for, or is it random? It's not random, but it's also not necessarily entirely the student's choice. And I don't want to speak too much for my colleagues in residential well-being because that's not a process I am directly involved in. But so I'm going to drop in the chat if you have any questions about the residential well-being student leader process. There is a specific RWBSL. There is a specific email that you can reach out to for more questions. I would really encourage that outreach to come from your student. So that's rwbsl@bt.edu. So students are working together in triads to support a specific population of students. And so I know that my colleagues work very hard to find the balance between students' preferences and where those students are going to be best placed to meet the needs of our residential community. Kaylin, do student leaders get their own room? Heard they had to share this year. So student leaders, we try over time to make sure they have their own space, but that is not guaranteed. So if we are at overflow housing or we need to have temporary housing, residential well-being student leaders will receive roommates. I believe it is better for them to assume they are going to have a roommate that we will relieve as we have open spaces available than to assume that that is not going to happen. I think assuming that's not going to happen, at least at the beginning of the year, is probably setting themselves up for dashed hopes, if that makes sense. If living off campus is the best option, hold that thought. My lovely colleagues from off-campus housing will be taking over shortly and having a fun conversation with you about that. Allie, no, the Living Learning Program returner process is going to open on October 3rd, and that's when students will be able to apply. That process will continue through the rest of the fall semester, and students will have contracts due in December. And then if they're looking for HAP, the housing application process, some folks call the lottery, that doesn't even open until January. If a student's returning to Orion and apply for RA, will they be placed in their LLC? I can't say for sure. Again, I don't want to speak for my colleagues in RWB. We may have more amazing folks returning from Orion, and we have student leader positions in that building. And so I don't want to make a promise that that would certainly happen. Although, like I said, my colleagues are doing a lot to take into consideration students' preferences versus where they're going to be best suited to help lead a community. If a returning student wants to apply to an LLC, they can apply for any new one except the 4. Yes, Jennifer, that's perfect. Yes, even if your student, let's say your student is currently in Thrive, which is one of our fantastic communities in Pritchard, and they've gotten a lot out of Thrive, but they're really interested in, say, Mosaico. They can apply to Mosaico. And as a returner, and Mosaico will be more than happy to review that application. And you know, if that application is great, then they'll offer them a space. The date for that to open is October 3rd. So circle that on your calendars and make sure you tell your students to keep a close eye on the Virginia Tech email and social media, and then they'll go from there. And even if they're not currently in an LLC, our LLC colleagues would love to have them. So you do not have to be in an LLC now to join one for next year. We have amazing programs that run the gamut, like you said, from major interest to just general interest. We have a great residential colleges that would love to see people join. Meraki, Mosaico, Thrive. I can't even name them all quickly. But other than Galileo, Hypatia, Orion, and Transfer, all of the other programs will be more than happy to review and accept applications from students who have not previously been part of the program or not a program at all. Any other questions that we can take for on-campus housing? And I'm not leaving. I'll just mute myself quietly while my colleague Sarah takes over, and I'll still be hanging around so that if we have later questions, be happy to address those. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah now, and she will be leading you through the off-campus housing process.
Great, thank you. Let me share my screen here. All right. Is that working, Nikki? All right. Thank you. Cool. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So we are the Virginia Tech Off-Campus Housing Office, and we kind of do a couple different things here. We try to help students find resources and provide those who are living outside of residence halls or looking to look outside or looking to live outside of residence halls. We also provide the tools for students on how to live off campus. We are the liaison between students and property managers. And then just to note, we do not own or lease any properties ourselves. We just guide you through the process. And Virginia Tech does not own any of the properties either. So I've had this question come up quite a few times, off campus versus on campus. It's very difficult to figure out exactly the price difference just because everything is changing so quickly. So we kind of guesstimated the 600 to 1,200 per person monthly, depending on the number of bedrooms. And then also you have to look at, do you want to commute via bike, bus, or car? And then with on campus, you are looking at 3,000 to 5,500 per semester, depending on the dorm that you are living in or the LLC. And then you will be required to have a dining plan, and all of that can be found on housing.vt.edu. And let me. So things to be considering when you're looking for off-campus housing is price range, the lease dates. So leases are 12 months, which is very difficult for some folks because they only want to do a 9-month lease, but that does not exist here in Blacksburg. If you find it, you are very lucky. You could also look into subletting if you're only going to be living here for 9 months and need to sublet for the summer, or if you're studying abroad. And then what kind of amenities do you want? Do you want to look for a place that has a pool and a weight room? Does it need to be close to campus? And then what is included as far as utilities? Do you want to pay for the Wi-Fi and water and power? The location. So this, once again, if you want to be able to walk to campus, or if you want to be closer to a certain building on campus, or if you're working downtown and need to be close to your job, what are the requirements that you have? And then what is the transportation that you're looking for? Are you going to be walking, biking? Do you want to pay for a parking pass? Do you want to even try the parking route? So this is what you need to look for when you're budgeting for your off-campus, is how much can I pay total a month? You need to consider groceries, utilities, the parking fees, and then coin laundry or in-unit laundry. One of our students is really struggling this semester because she's not used to having coin laundry and having to go downstairs to go do her laundry into the basement of the place. So that is a very big change for her, and that's something that your student will want to think about. So the place that you can find everything is on our website, offcampus.vt.edu. And this is where you can find different properties that have availability, what their price ranges are, what utilities are included. You can see the map of the location to where it is towards campus. So if your student is needing to be close to the engineering side of campus or more of the ag side, then you can see what would be closer. And they can log in with their VT credentials to also find roommates and say that they have a place and they're looking for a roommate, or they are looking for a roommate and a place. And this is what the roommate finder looks like. It's kind of a Facebook for off-campus housing. You would add your profile, and you would be able to see other Hokies profiles. You would be able to see what everyone's preferences are as far as if they smoke, if they have a dog, if they like to have a very neat apartment, or if they're messy and really just don't care. You kind of get to filter all of that out. So it's a really cool feature on here. And once you post that you need or you're looking for a roommate, it stays up for about 30 days. So types of leases, when you're looking for the types of lease that will work best for your student, some places offer joint and some offer individual. Joint leases are when everyone signs the same lease. And then if one person doesn't pay, the other roommates are responsible to pick up the slack. The individual lease is when each student is paying their own lease and they are not responsible for their roommates' rent. So talking about the transportation, commuter parking passes, they are very pricey, but it's can be convenient also. So here are the prices for the 2022-2023 year of parking, and these went up quite a bit from last semester. So just something to really consider. So availability, the housing search is beginning now through December. The options to renew are starting to open, and then application processes are going to start. And then this is important because if your student is looking to live off campus, they need to start doing their research, going to the properties, see what looks the best to them, see what amenities they need and location. If they're like, I have to be in this property because they accept pets and is walking distance to campus and so forth, then yes, they're probably going to want to sign sooner rather than later. If they're not really sure, still exploring the field, that is not a problem. They will have plenty of time. But it is basically, you've got to start getting the ball rolling as far as looking goes. We will hold our off-campus housing fair in October. It will be October 25th, and that is where the majority of the properties come to Squire Student Center and can talk to the students and give them more information in one location. So in January and March, that's when non-renewals are posted. So that's when the properties will say, yes, we still have rooms available, please come talk to us. But it will be a decrease in availability. And then in April and May, you will still see more of a decrease, but there will still be options. And then over the summer, it gets more scarce. So you really don't get to pick and choose as much as you would in the earlier months there. And so what you need to start doing is exploring the properties and then set your wish list and budget. Make sure that you and your student are talking through that. And then we also encourage your student to contact Student Legal Services at Virginia Tech. This is a free service for students. They will review the lease for you and let you know if everything looks good or if there needs to be any changes. And then their contact information is listed here. And if you would like to contact us, you can do so through the phone, email, website, and we can make appointments for Zoom if you would prefer to do that. And does anyone have any questions?
I'm going to post our on-campus housing office information in the chat, just in case anyone needs it, so that you have those numbers to reach out to.
Yes, the date of the off-campus housing fair is October 10th, or I'm sorry, October 25th. At Squire Student Center. So to clarify, off-campus housing search for next year is really right now. Yes, you need to go ahead and start at least looking. You don't have to sign anything yet. And we encourage people, do not sign anything yet. Just start getting ideas. because you might decide, oh yeah, I want to sign with the person I'm living with right now, and then that could change drastically in a couple months. The cost of apartments on VT off-campus website per unit or per person, it depends on the property. Some are per unit and some are per person. And that's the tricky part, and another reason why we can't really give a good breakdown of the housing costs, because every single property is different.
And different properties also include different amenities within their costs. So some may list costs that are inclusive of utilities, some will not. So it's really incumbent upon students to be very thorough in their research to make sure they know what all they can expect to pay.
Exactly. Let's see, what were the estimated costs again? Okay, I will do a screenshot of that for you. I recommend that they sign a lease in the spring, if not before, like maybe late fall, early spring, just that way they are secured for the next year, especially if they have specific properties that they're interested in. Let me do a little screenshot here and get you that information.
So as Sarah is doing that, something that I think would be helpful to know about the OLLP returner process to come back to living learning programs. Again, it will open on October 3rd. Our program directors will be reviewing applications on a rolling basis. And so students may get offers within the first couple of weeks of October. So much like the off-campus market, it's good to be looking. It's good to be looking at on-campus as well. We do try to help support students in making those decisions for next year so that they can sort of put some of those things to bed and refocus on other parts of their life here at Virginia Tech.
All right, so it wouldn't let me do an actual screenshot, but I just copied and pasted that in there for you. So that way you all can reference that. And we do encourage students to come talk to us just so they can get some more information. We are in Squires Student Center, so we would love for them to stop by, or if they just would like to go over the website with us, whatever would work best. Great, any other questions? Awesome.
Okay. We'll hang around for a few minutes more. Folks may be still thinking and writing stuff down. So we'll hang out for a few minutes more before we close out the session. But thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. We hope it was helpful. Please don't hesitate to reach out to either department if you have any questions. We want to make sure y'all get the best information possible to make the best decision possible. So otherwise, hope you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you.
So I have a question, if you can hear me. My name is Ken. I'm zooming in from work. I have two students at Tech. One's a freshman in a living learning community. And you probably answered this, but I'm trying to work and listen at the same time. But so the housing lottery, I got that it opens in January, but she's in a living learning community. So if she wants to re-up in that living learning community / dorm, the app opens October 3. Is that right?
That is correct. So the LLP process, which program is she in, by the way?
She's in Meraki, and she's in Meraki.
That's
she
fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
We love that. Meraki wants to grow. So they will be happy to have returners. So yes, if she wants to come back to Meraki, that will open on October 3rd. She'll be able to apply to return to Meraki.
So that would be as a participant. If she wants to take some leadership position, she would need to talk to the Meraki folks, right?
Yeah, and they have so our different programs have different types of leadership. Some do them in a very formalized process. Some are more informal. And so I would
Okay.
really encourage her to reach out to Kevin, who's the program director for Meraki, about what leadership
Okay.
opportunities there are. I know he will be happy to have that conversation with her.
Yeah, and I'm sure she's up on it. She's a real go-getter. She's a camp counselor background. I just mainly wanted to make sure I understood deadlines because as busy as she is and she's kind of jumped in head first. I was trying to help my kids keep up with deadlines at least, but I let them do their own stuff and I don't know where she's at with it. But so yeah, October 3 is gonna be here before you know it. So I appreciate you guys having us and I'm gonna go back and listen to the recording when I'm not at work. I appreciate y'all recording it.
No problem. Let us know if you need anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And yes, even if your student isn't in LLC currently, they can still apply at the same time. So the LLP return process opens for anyone who is a returning student who wants to come back and live in an LLC the upcoming year.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Nikki, this is Steve Drozda. I'm a freshman in O'Shaughnessy.
Sure.
And I think that he signed a 2-year commitment for the Global Leadership Living Program.
Did he apply to the LSCRC as to join the residential college and accept an offer there?
Yes.
Then yes, he did make a 2-year commitment.
Okay.
So give me just a quick second to answer a question in chat and I'll get back to explaining how those work.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. So for students who join the Honored Residential Commons, that's in East AJ, the Residential College at West AJ, which is in West AJ, and the Leadership and Social Change Residential College in O'Shaughnessy, if they applied and accepted an offer for that for the first year, then they are making a 2-year commitment. They don't need to do anything at all. What we will do in a couple of weeks is roll over their contract from this year to next year. When we do that, we notify them, hey, just a reminder, you're a member of the residential college at West AJ. We've rolled over your contract for next year. You don't need to do anything else.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else we can answer?
Yeah, one nuance associated with that. Because they signed this 2-year agreement, when the spring semester is complete, will they have to empty out their dorm or will they be going into that same dorm room?
Yes, so they will have to fully move out in the spring. Our buildings are in use year round. So just because your student's not here in the summer, other folks are. So we do summer sessions as well as a really full schedule of camps and conferences over the summer. So I know this is kind of a bit of a pain, but they will be moving out and it's likely they'll be in another room next year. They'll be able to pick as returning students to the program, they'll pick their rooms before first years do. So if your student doesn't, maybe they love their room and want to come back to it, which would be great. Maybe they just want to try a different floor. They'll be able to look at that too.
Okay, all right. And there's no storage provided on campus for a fee, is there?
No, we simply do not have the space.
Right.
When you think about, we've got 10,200-ish residents.
Sure.
I don't even know where we start to put it all.
Right, I get it.
Yep.
It's all numbers.
It is.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nikki.
No problem. Any other questions that folks have?
All right, so how representatives of off-campus choices, like how many representatives will be at the fair? Last year we had close to 40 different communities. And that's you kind of give and take, but it's a very good representation of the Blacksburg and New River Valley property management companies. Any other questions for either of us?
Okay. Well, we'll hang out till at least 3:15, just to see if any other questions come up. I know sometimes it's just a lot of information and you've got to process it all. And we'll hang out at least another 5 minutes. So keep bringing in those questions if you've got them. If not, it's really great to chat with everybody today and hope you have a good weekend.
Thanks, Jackie and Sarah. You have a good weekend as well. This was very informative.
Thank you. We appreciate you all coming.
Bye now.
That's a great question, Allie. If so, whenever we do a room change from one room to another, we will notify the students that they're getting a new roommate. I will say something that's coming up in a couple of weeks is that we're doing core out processing. So at the end of the first 6 weeks of the semester, there'll be students who have decided that the core is not for them and they wanted to move to civilian housing. And so what generally happens with core out processing is we give kind of a blanket email the day or two before, reminding students who have an open space in their room that they can be assigned a roommate and that core out processing occurring. The reason we do it that way for core out processing is that we are literally processing maybe 50 to 60 room changes in the space of 2 hours. And so in order to make sure we know that there's no way we're going to be able to make sure that all this notification happens really, really quickly. So we'll do kind of a blanket warning and a heads up. But outside of that sort of really compressed process, what we typically do, we'll reach out to the student via email and say, hey, you know, you're being assigned a new roommate. You can expect that this person's going to start moving in on this day at this time. If that person has given us permission to share their information, we will also include that in the notification. If they haven't, we will be transparent about that and say, you know, they've chosen not to have their communication information shared. But if your student has said that, given us permission to share it, we'll share it with them and really encourage them to kind of reach out ahead of time. But yes, we always do our best to make sure there's notification prior to arrival. Our preference is that that's at least a day in advance, with caveats that sometimes emergencies arise. And if, you know, we have I'm not trying to call the university out on me, but if something happens in a facility sort of emergency and we need to move people quickly, it may not be 24 hours, but we will do our best to make notifications as quickly and in a timely manner as possible. Anything else we can help with? Have a great weekend to you too, Allie. Hope you have a great one. I'm going to put a quick last call for questions. We're coming up on 3:15. Any last questions that y'all have?